everyone. Welcome to another episode of Let's Chat Reality. I'm Michael,
And I'm Molly.
and we are here today to cover two very exciting shows, I would say. We have Survivor Episode 3, which had a crazy tribal council that I need to have broken down for me just because it was so hectic that I don't even know that I fully understand what happened, but we're going to break it all down. And then, of course, Love is Blind, Season 8. We have not covered it yet. The season just ended, just had its reunion last Sunday, so we're gonna cover the reunion and just kind of the season overall in general. So, Molly, are you ready to get into it?
Yes, let's do it. So much to discuss.
Yes, definitely. So let's start out with Survivor. So we start the episode with Vula following Kevin's elimination at the last Tribal Council. Mary felt blindsided, but just kind of happy to still be there because I think she really thought that it might have been her last night. So she was grateful to have another day, but definitely feels totally out of the loop coming out of that tribal. Say feels like she also lost trust with Cedric and Justin based on how the votes panned out because she was told to use her idol and thought that she shouldn't have even had to use that and waste it last night. So, Molly, what are your thoughts on say feeling like she can't trust Cedric and Justin anymore? Do you think that's justified, or should she still feel like it wasn't her? You know, the Kevin did get eliminated here in the end, so should it be enough to get her to trust them still?
I think I see both sides of it. Like I think for sure that like she's feeling betrayed and like she didn't know the full like what was going on in the voting there. But because of that, I think then she was safe. So like I think she should thank them also for that in a way. Like maybe she would have not thought to use the idol and that she did because Cedric said do it, but like obviously then she didn't really need to do it. But in general, like I think it was the right move for that to happen. So I want her to forgive them because I like it makes sense for her to stick with them.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like, okay, it was a waste of an idol, which
Yeah.
sucks, especially on a tribe where they're probably gonna go back to tribal. I mean, like, we
I know.
know, spoiler alert, they do, but like, based on the fact that they lost probably their most physical player last night, and they've gone to the last two, it's a pretty safe bet that without a tribe swap, they're probably going back to at least one more. So you want to have that idol in your pocket there, especially when in a tribe so small. But yeah, I mean, in the end, at the end of the day, if she hadn't used her idol and she did go home, then that would have been even worse. She wouldn't be here today. So I think, Cedric probably told that to her out of actual concern, actual caution. So at the end of the day, it probably, it's hard to blame him for that. But I can understand, like you said, say feeling like that she has trouble trusting them now because was that on purpose? Was that to flush out the idol? Like they're always going to be in the back of your mind of whether you can actually trust them.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, Mary and Say go looking for the idol, and this was a hilarious segment to me. Uh, Mary is actually looking for the idol, and Say is basically just kind of there along with her to make sure that Mary doesn't find it. And it's very reminiscent to me of Survivor 47 with Rome and Soul,
Yeah.
where Rome was just right there next to him and making sure that Saul was never alone to look for that idol and find something that could save him there. And what I really liked though was that unlike with the Rome situation, I felt like Rome it almost felt like it was getting to be personal and getting to be a little bit past what is acceptable in the game. Whereas here, it felt like both Say and Mary were having fun with it. Like they both respected each other's game. And what I love their relationship on this tribe because it really feels like a game rivalry that doesn't go past the game.
Yeah. I agree. And I mean I feel like we continue to see that throughout the episode too. So it's nice, like it came full circle almost in a way too in the end, which we can talk about. But like in this moment, I think it's set up for that kind of the foreshadowing of them. Like they do respect each other, but they're just also like not working together. But so it makes it for entertaining TV for sure as well.
Definitely. Well, back over to Siva. David gets emotional talking about his living situation. He had a real weird interaction with Kyle, where Kyle, I don't even know how this like came up. Kyle was like, "Where do you live?" or something, and then David says, "Oh, I live in a van outside of my parents' house," and Kyle is like, "Whoa, that's sick," and it was like, no, it's not. It's almost like one of those things where Kyle, I think, was just planned on reacting that way no matter how what David said. Like he had just kind of like expected it to be something good, and so he just kind of said it, even though that didn't fit what David was actually saying. And that to me, like that would set off a little bit of alarm bells to me if I were David, because it's like, is Kyle just trying to agree with whatever I say? Is she just kind of yes manning me? And that would almost make me feel like I don't know that Kyle's being genuine with me. I don't know that like what his deal is, but like that was just a very weird interaction to me.
Yeah. I I feel like that's also just like not in that setting, like you don't always know how you should respond, I guess, too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, maybe he just couldn't read the room and that he was being negative in that moment. Like they're hungry, they're not thinking straight all the time. So giving Kyle the benefit of the doubt, I feel like maybe he was just like not in it totally.
Yeah, I guess like yeah. How do you respond when someone
Yeah.
says something like that? Because it's like, are they okay with it? Like,
Mhm.
am I? I don't want to like pity them or like make it seem like I'm judging it. So I can understand how that would be a little bit of an awkward situation. But I think like I personally would kind of react in a little bit toned down, like
Yeah.
oh okay type of thing, like not necessarily like wait to see how they feel about it before I react. I don't know. So yeah, I mean, I probably should give Kyle the benefit of the doubt, but it felt like almost too quick of a reaction to. I don't know. There was something weird about it to me that felt very uncomfortable, but. David does go in then in his confessional. He talks about the fact that he can't start a family yet due to his financial situation. He thinks his girlfriend will break up with him if he doesn't win the money, which is really sad. And I
Mhm.
mean, he talked about it as like that he understood why she would feel that way, but like that's tough. That made me I love the
Mhm.
fact that we're getting more to David than just his muscles, and like I feel like he's such a stereo on paper such a stereotypical broy type that we've seen on pre-new era, at least on the show a million times. But I love that we're getting to know so much more about him on a deeper level, and I feel like it really humanizes him in a way that I didn't expect.
I agree. When they were sharing that story, like I feel like it definitely puts more of a picture of like who David is in mind, not just his muscles and like he's obviously going through it and wants to actually win for the money so that he can have a life that he wants with his girlfriend right now.
Yeah. And we learned in the last episode that he has four nipples, or had four nipples.
Yep.
So that was interesting. So we're just learning all these facts about David. But yeah, I am liking him a lot more than I
Mhm.
thought I would. I thought I would almost like him in an ironic way, like where it would be like kind of the villain, but like a goofy villain. But he's just so much more layered than I ever expected, and I really like that.
I agree.
And also sticking with Siva, basically the only other segment we saw of Siva in this episode, we find out that Mitch and Charity are very close, that they're aligned together, and they want to form an alliance working with Kevin and David, or Kyle and David, excuse me, and Kyle also has an alliance with David, Chrissy, and Camilla. So we're kind of in the middle and figuring out which way to go. Which way do you think that would be most beneficial to them? And it's hard to say with Siva because we've never seen them go to tribal. We haven't seen a ton of the game dynamics on their tribe, but which way, from what we've seen, do you think would be best?
Yeah. That one's hard. I don't know because I feel like we don't really know a ton about them. Like I'm just rooting for Mitch for sure. Like I really
Yeah.
like Mitch. So and Mitch and Charity I think are a good duo there. So I want them to choose whoever they think is like going to be the best situation for them. Which at this point I don't really know.
Yeah, I mean, I feel I love Camilla, And I
Yeah.
just want whatever is best for Camilla. She's my
Yeah.
favorite on this tribe so far, I think. So just kind of selfishly, but I also, I mean, just from pregame, we haven't seen a lot of Chrissy in the game really, but from
Mhm.
pregame, she wasn't my favorite. So I don't know, and I love Mitch too. So yeah, it's hard. I mean, we have a swap, so I guess it really doesn't even matter so much
Yeah.
to speculate what's going to happen here because spoiler alert, next episode the tribes are going to be totally different. So who knows what will happen there? But I hope that we see more of the people on this tribe because I feel like of all the tribes, we've probably seen the least of Siva.
Yeah, I agree. And think, I mean, obviously, like they haven't been to tribal yet, so we're seeing more of the tribal council tribe, which has only been Bula.
Right.
So hopefully with this swap, it'll be better to get a more picture of who the other castaways are from other tribes.
Yeah, because even Logi, though, I feel like we've seen more of their game dynamics, but I feel like
Yeah,
Siva, maybe they're just so kumbaya. I feel like that we don't get a lot of their game, like, alliances because there might not be a lot. Like, maybe they're just kind of all kumbaya, holding hands, getting along most of the day.
yeah,
And with Logi, there's been a little bit more shifting of dynamics there. So maybe
yeah,
there's
for
just kind of
sure.
more to see with Logi than with Siva, even though they both haven't been to travel yet.
Yeah, so we'll have to see. Maybe there will be more drama coming up with the swap, I'm sure, with some of those people.
I hope so. Well, speaking of Logi, let's go over to them for a minute. Eva gives Joe a bracelet that she made for his daughter. Thomas and Shaheen are concerned about how close Eva and Joe have gotten. This is kind of just another example of that. And they're kind of leaning now towards cutting Eva first to bring Joe closer to them rather than cutting Star like they had originally thought they were going to do first. I mean, last episode we saw Thomas even recommend that they destroy the clue that Star got to, so she can't find her idol. And now they're totally change of mind there to potentially help her find it so that they can use it to get out Eva. So, what do you think about that shift there?
I was sad to see that because I like Eva. I mean, I also like Star, but I like want to see Eva go far. And with that, like obviously, if she would be voted out because of just making it so obvious that she's close with Joe would be upsetting. Just because I like them as a duo, also. So I'm like, I wish she wasn't so showy with that. Like that definitely hurt her game, at least from what we heard from the other tribe mates when they were talking about it. So like I don't think she realized it in that moment though, how showy she was being with it is why I would feel bad if she got home because went home because of that.
Yeah, I mean, my assumption would be, and look, I'm no expert in this. I don't want to claim that I know anything about this really, but I would assume that that is part of Eva's autism, is just not understanding social situations and how things are coming across. And doing something like that publicly is probably, I would assume, a an effect of that, of where she feels like, oh, that's just a nice thing that I'm doing and everybody's going to take it that way, where in reality that's showing a lot of your cards of how close you are to Joe and everybody sees it that way, but Eva just can't process the fact that that was the reaction that people would have to doing something like that so publicly. So I can totally understand it, and I think that if she had told the whole tribe about her autism and Joe wasn't the only one who knew about it, that people probably would look at it a little bit differently what she's doing. But without that knowledge, they can only look at it like they would with anyone else doing something like that.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. But hopefully, I mean, she's not gonna go home, I think, just because they're swapping, but that would have been sad if she did.
Yeah, I mean, I would hate that, but I would also hate for Star to go home, and mostly that's not even because of Star, but I don't know if you've seen Molly. This, I assume you have not. This Twitter account, Star Updates,
Oh, I
Starbase
haven't.
48, I believe it's called. Go check it out. I'll show you after we get off of here. I'll show you some of it. It's the
Mhm.
funniest Twitter account that I just have to give a quick shout out to because they make me laugh every week. And they just give little updates what Star's doing on every episode, which not a lot, but they make it very funny. And I recommend anyone who hasn't checked that out to go check out their Twitter because it's great. But Star, as speaking of Star, Eva asks Star if she found an idol, which Star denies. Now, Eva is doing this knowing that Star has found the clue. So she knows that Star is lying when Star is lying when she says that she hasn't found anything yet, because Joe told her that she had the clue. So Eva tells Star that they don't need two puzzlers in the tribe, meaning that they should target Thomas or Bianca first. Star then goes and rats Eva out, telling Bianca and Thomas about what Eva said, which makes them want to work with Star and help her unlock the idol to target Eva. So I think this was a smart move of Eva, actually, to kind of trap Star into lying because Eva knows that she has a hard time distinguishing a lie from someone telling the truth. And so this way she can matter of factly know, okay, factually, I know that what you're telling me is false. So now I know that I can't trust you fully. Now,
Yeah.
I would think once you have that information, why would you then go and give Star something, a little piece nugget that of information or of your opinion that then they can just go rat you out? Like I would think that okay, you found out that they're lying to you. That means they feel like they can't trust you. Now don't tell them anything. So maybe she wanted to use that to get a better, closer relationship with Star, which I can understand. But I think that doing that was probably a really bad move for Eva.
Yeah. I was like, "No, don't tell her that." But she did. So I feel like that also is not going to help in the long run for Eva.
No, definitely not. But again, they're swapping, so who knows what tribe anyone will end up on. So I will see if that ends up having any effect on the coming weeks based on how those tribes pan out. So
Yeah.
we will see. But going into the challenge for this week, it is a blindfold challenge, which we haven't seen in a few seasons. One person will be the tribe's caller, the rest of the tribe is blindfolded. The caller will guide the blindfolded tribe members to find bags that contain keys. Once they have the keys, the caller will unlock a slide puzzle, and then guide a still blindfolded tribe member to solve that puzzle. So, what do you think of the blindfold challenge? It's something that we have seen many times in the past, but not in a little while. So, was that a challenge that you missed?
Yeah, I like seeing it. I think it adds a layer to it already. Like it makes it kind of exciting because then there's more elements to it you can't see obviously, so that makes it harder. But I think it's a good challenge overall.
Yeah, I like a blindfolded challenge when it's something like doing a puzzle. I think is interesting. I don't love it when there's opportunity for them to like get a concussion, for example.
Okay,
I
fair.
don't know that that's the safest or most fun to watch somebody actually potentially get really really hurt. So I liked the second part of this challenge when they were having them guide the slide puzzle. I think that's very interesting. But yeah, I could have probably done without the first part of it personally. But the reward is two hammocks and a tarp for the first place tribe, and then just a tarp for the second place. So seemingly very good reward there. And in a shocking turn of events, Loki wins, Siva second, Vula loses. So yeah, unsurprising results there. But
Yeah.
Vula back to their third tribal.
I know. I was sad. That I was like, but I knew that was gonna happen, but I also was like, I didn't want you to lose.
Yeah, I know. It's just so. Look, this ended up being exciting,
True.
but in theory, the same tribe going to three tribal councils in a row, not the most exciting results here. And that's why I always just prefer post merge Survivor, especially in this three tribe era that we have now every season where there's always a disaster tribe, it feels like. There's always a tribe that's going to the most tribals and is just kind of utter chaos. And that is our Vula tribe this time.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of potentially controversial challenges here, we have our journey that Camilla, Bianca, and Justin are chosen to go on this time. Now, if you can even call it a challenge that they have to do there, they have
Yeah.
to each roll seven dice. Flames are good, skulls are bad. After each roll, they have to place any flames or skulls that they roll in their respective spots. For flames, gets you an extra vote. Getting four skulls first, and you lose your vote. What did you think of this journey?
I did not like it. It just it was so bad because first of all, like the odds you don't they were much higher for you to lose your vote than to actually gain the advantage. And you
Oh,
had
was it?
well, I don't know, why did we keep on seeing skulls? I feel like there had to be more skulls than there were fire.
I have no idea. I assumed that they were equal
That's
chance.
my interpretation.
So
Maybe not.
my thought was that on the dice, I don't know if it was just one side of each dice that had either a skull or a flame, or maybe it was two, but I don't think every roll
Oh,
you
they
got
weren't
one
all
or the
sided.
other. Yeah, that was my guess, was that, I don't know, maybe like two
I need to go
spots
back
on
and
each
watch
side.
the dice.
Yeah.
But
I'm not
overall,
100%
it was
sure.
not a good challenge just because it is just so based on luck.
Yeah.
And like I don't like seeing that kind of a challenge in Survivor when they're there to like be smart and solve challenges, and this was not anything you had to be smart about.
I think my biggest problem with this journey was just that they weren't given an option of whether to do it or not in the first place.
Yeah.
Like, give them the autonomy to decide whether they want to risk their vote for this random
Mm.
challenge. It wasn't even anything that they had to have any sort of skill for. And so it's just, not only does someone from the tribe get chosen by someone on the other tribe to go on this journey, so they didn't choose to be here in the first place. Then they didn't choose to compete in this random challenge in the second place. And then now all of a sudden they don't have a vote on a four-person tribe. So, I
Yeah.
mean, like, it's kind of crazy how this sequence of events that Justin in particular just had no say in any of it. And then ended up here where now he's at tribal with three other people and doesn't even have a vote. So that was just kind of crazy to me. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I agree. I think they definitely are going to hear that feedback and not do this challenge again.
I hope so, but
Or the
look,
journey.
we're
But
who knows? I don't know that. I mean, look, Survivor 50 is supposed to be in the hands of the fans, but besides Survivor 50, I don't know how much they actually listen to our opinions on things at this point, but we'll see. But in the end, Camilla earns an extra vote while earns is a strong word. While Bianca and Justin lose theirs, Camilla is honest with her tribe about her extra vote. Bianca only tells Thomas the truth while lying to the rest of her tribe, and Justin just lies to everybody. Now, Justin's lie here, it's kind of interesting. Um, he said that they decided whether comfort for the tribe, or like he's not sure if they're gonna get anything, but like that he didn't have to risk his vote. It was just like a total weird lie to me that I don't know how he thought that anyone was gonna really buy this.
yeah, no, he's like, oh, well, I don't know what happened yet. We might get supplies in 3 days. Like, what? I don't think I would have thought about that at all. So hearing that, I would have been like confused. Like, that's a possibility. But yeah, I'm surprised no one really walked around after that to talk about like, is he lying? Like, I was like, wait, that was such a bad lie.
I feel like they probably did, or they just kind of all like agreed, yeah, he's lying. Like there's not even a discussion to have, really. I don't
Yeah.
know. It was just weird though, because it was like, I don't know, if you're lying about something like this, I would think that you would want to lie based on kind of like what Bianca did, where it's like, you remember how in Survivor 46 they did this? Like, that was what I had to do. Like, you should lie about something that they've seen before, because then it's more believable. Like, yeah, they would repeat something that basically that they've already done in the past. And you can kind of give the details of what you did based on what you saw someone else do. So, like, if they ask a bunch of questions, you have answers because this is something you've seen them do before. So you know how it worked. Whereas, like, I feel like it's so hard to come up with like details when you're just making something up.
Yeah. You have to have the facts before you can give the lie.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Vula, as we said, they lost the immunity challenge, so they are going back to tribal. Mary decides, though, to act as if she feels comfortable and is not scrambling in hopes that the rest of the tribe will get paranoid that she's already found an idol. I thought this was brilliant, actually. I don't know that I would have ever thought to do this. And it works on Say because she begins to spiral a bit. She begins to worry and thinks that Mary already found an idol potentially when she wasn't looking, because we saw, I forgot to bring up earlier that scene of Say talking to Cedric about how we need to keep our eyes on Mary, and then Mary just runs.
Yeah.
It's like playing freeze tag or something. Like she just darts out looking for that idol. I thought that was so funny. That I feel like that has to be like a meme, a gif that we're going to be using for a long time to come on the show.
I know, that was great.
Yeah. But Say begins to spiral, thinking maybe during that time Mary found something that she wasn't looking, and she tells Cedric that they should split the vote on Mary and Justin just to be safe here. Do you think if you saw Mary doing this, just kind of laying out in the ocean, not campaigning, not looking for idols, would you feel like Cedric, where you think like, okay, she's trying to get in our heads here, or do you think you would have been more like, say, thinking like we need a backup plan?
That's a hard one because I want to say I would think like Cedric, but then I also could also think that I would believe her that she was feeling chilled. That like I mean, in Survivor, you never know what you can really believe, and I guess Say also never had trust with Mary, so she didn't really know. She always had her red flags up with that with Mary in terms of like when she was doing things or just very hyper fixated, I think, on her actions and that. So
Yeah.
it makes sense for her to then worry with that could be a fact.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Say here because I think she knows that Mary is a player. Mary is a fan. Mary is not going to be someone to just give up and die. And I think that seeing her do that would set alarm bells in me too, because
Mhm.
Mary's just not the type of person to do that. Even if all hope seems lost, you gotta fight. You gotta fight every till the last second there. And I think that I would be a little bit paranoid, like Say is thinking, let's just split the vote to be safe here because Mary's actions are not aligning with her personality and what we've seen from her for the last however many days that we've been here before now. So I
Yeah,
think that that was really astute and smart to Say to think
I
that
agree.
way.
Yeah.
Well, then we get to tribal, and this is where, because up until this point, it's like, okay, Will's going back to tribal again. I think we've seen this film before. Like, what's going on here? But then we get to tribal, and all hell breaks loose. So, Mary plays her shot in the dark, which actually works.
Yeah.
And, this is only the third time in Survivor history that we've seen a successful shot in the dark, and only the second time in Survivor history that actually it was she needed to use it because the first time that we ever saw the shot in the dark, I think was the premiere of Survivor 44 or 45, no 44, and the person who used it didn't get any votes, so it was kind of useless. But here this was useful, so Mary negated both votes against her from Cedric and Say. Since Justin lost his vote, it was only 2 votes. Then on the revote, there's another tie between Say and Justin. Now, here's where things get complicated, and I'm gonna kind of slowly explain this here. I watched it very slowly and kept pausing every time Jeff explained so that I could write this down, and we would have an actual correct analysis here. So they vote again. This time they can only vote. Oh, sorry. On the revote, there's another tie between Say and Justin. I can't remember if I said that already. Then they vote again. This time they can only vote for Say or Justin. Now, normally, tied players are not allowed to vote because they can only vote for each other, and so they cancel out each other's votes. However, since Justin does not have a vote, Say is permitted to vote, but can only vote for Justin because Justin's not going to vote back for her, so they don't cancel each other out. So that vote for Justin counts, if that makes sense. So she is allowed to vote because of that. But Cedric can vote for either. So basically, here again, Cedric decides, are we going to keep tying or are we going to vote Justin out? He decides to keep his vote on Say, so the vote's still tied. They are officially deadlocked in the situation. Now, again, normally, the rest of the tribe would openly discuss and try to come to a consensus between the tied players. If they can't decide, then Say and Justin are now safe and the others draw rocks. However, in this case, Mary and Cedric are the only two others, and Mary doesn't have a vote. So it's only Cedric. Is the others. So now Cedric has all the power. He decides what he wants to do here, whether he wants to vote out Say or Justin. Then they end up just kind of having to plead their case and openly discuss. So when you saw all this happen, let's just kind of stop there for a second. What was your reaction?
Well, it was just wild. I had never seen anything like it before, so it was crazy to see it all going down and hearing all the rules that Jeff was saying and everything within that. Like, I was trying to wrap my head around what was even happening in that moment. And now hearing it again, obviously, like watching some videos, like it makes sense how that came about. Um, but it's still just so crazy because there were only four and two people didn't have a vote. Like it was just crazy that there was just so few amount of people that could have been deciding there, and then it even just came down to one in the end total, which is also crazy. It's like, well, at this point, that's not a tribe; that's one person.
Yeah. So my first reaction when I first saw it, and I think I texted you this, was like, I think Jeff's wrong here. Like, I really thought that Jeff had gotten the rules wrong, or producers, I guess, probably not just Jeff, but I really thought that Cedric had just voted himself out, basically, because I didn't think that. I guess in my mind, I thought, oh, well, they're just not going to do the discussion period because there's no one to discuss with. So I guess in my mind, I thought not that Cedric got all the power, but that Cedric now, like we, skipped that part, and then Cedric's the only one that can draw rocks, and so Cedric's out. But no, they still went with that. Now I know that I saw Dwight Moore from Survivor 43 talking about this, how he thinks that this was technically correct. However, it probably isn't fair. Like, doesn't make sense with all these lost votes and everything, that the rules should be consistent. I think this is all kind of new for Survivor and such a small tribe, having all this with lost votes and everything that wasn't a factor in before the new era. So I think they're all figuring this out, and this is such a unique situation that they should have accounted for, but probably really didn't.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It was just wild to see all of that happen. But I'm happy that Cedric did decide to change his vote there at the end and eliminate Justin. So then it made sense, like if what you were saying that Say should have been safe, then it makes sense that Justin was the one to go home. Also, it seemed like he kind of just gave up at the end, like wasn't trying to fight for himself, but Say did fight for herself. So it makes sense.
Yeah, no, I was really glad because Say is just, I mean, first of all, Say is just so entertaining, and she's
Yeah.
bringing so much to this season that I'm glad we didn't lose her this early. But also, yeah, like I agree. I think that if Say had gone home, this would have been a really controversial elimination here because of that fact that the rules being, slightly different would have made her immune and not even a possibility to leave here. So, in like in theory, I think that Justin is the right person to go here because even if, depending on whatever rules you believe would be most fair, Justin would have probably been an option at the very least to be eliminated. So I think it makes sense that he was the one to be eliminated here. And like you said, he didn't fight for himself nearly as hard as Say did. I'm sure he did more than we saw. He said he did more than we saw, but still, I think that Say probably fought a lot harder, and Justin was just kind of like, Cedric, it's good, we're gonna be fine, whatever. Come to Luigi's, get free pizza. But I really really like Justin, but yeah, I think that I'm glad that it was him over Say.
Yeah. Agreed, but it's crazy. We'll have to see what happens then next week when they merge or when they swap. Not merge yet. Sorry, I'm too excited about the merge also, but I don't know what's gonna happen with that with the dynamics now with Mary and Say. Like, are they still gonna try like be the same way how they have been in this tribe, or are they gonna be completely different? Like, it'll be interesting if they end up together.
Yeah, like on one hand, I really hope they're together just because
Mhm.
like I love seeing them together. But on the other hand, I would be very interested to see without each other how they play. And especially Mary, I think it gives her kind of a new lease on life. And I think
Yeah.
that that would be super interesting to see how she gels with a totally different tribe, and say too, she's been such a force on this tribe, and so playing so hard that I wonder if she'll continue to do that in a different tribe with different people, or whether with different dynamics she'll play in a totally different way. So I'll be interested to see, but we will let you know when after next episode when we see how that all plays out. But
Yeah.
why don't we go over to close the Survivor 48 book and bring on some Love Is Blind coverage?
Yes, let's do it. So, season 8 has wrapped as we talked about that. Last Sunday was the reunion aired, was based in Minneapolis, Minnesota, which I feel like brought about some interesting accents we saw throughout the season, which was fun to see, I think. And any kind of show is a regional show and they have their strong accents. But overall, what are your thoughts from this season?
This season had a very slow start, I would say. I think the first drop of episodes, the first 6 episodes that we got were all in the pods, and that was the first time they'd ever done that. And to me, I know that it's kind of what makes the show unique, but to me, the pods is my least favorite part of any season. And I think like 4 episodes is plenty of the pods. And in the past, we've kind of slowly been getting more and more pods, and this season just like gave us way more than we had ever seen before. And it wasn't that exciting to like make it worth it. Like, I don't know what about this season's pods made them feel like they needed to spend so much more time in there. But it was too much for me, and I was like, okay, I don't know how I feel about this. And then the next drop of episodes came out, and it was still really boring. Like, there was some excitement right at the beginning of it, the cliffhanger from the first batch about Daniel and Taylor, and the whole like, did he follow her on Instagram before? But once we got rid of that, which was within the first 15 20 minutes, then there really wasn't much else that happened. And it really wasn't until I feel like the finale that the season finally had some juicy drama that actually, like, kept my interest. And then the reunion I thought was actually pretty decent. So it had a strong ending, but a really, really slow start.
I agree. Every pod episode kept on dragging on. I was like, okay, we could just cut these conversations. I don't need to see everything here.
Yeah.
And then as you were saying, like they were mostly boring episodes until the end. But we did get some of that drama at the end. So and now I feel like there's now post drama, which
Yeah.
we can kind of get into a little bit of that, but there's still ongoing drama, which also makes this like, okay, maybe this is interesting now. But while we were watching this season, we are like, what's going on?
I mean, there was like a good, what felt like 5 minutes of Taylor scrolling on her phone at the beginning of the second batch and asking for the Wi-Fi password. Like, I'm like, am I watching the Big Brother live feeds, or am I watching an edited show here? Like, because why didn't you edit this out? So
I know.
that was crazy to me. But
That was. They
yeah.
even had the producer you could see bring in the phone. Like, why did you need to show
I mean,
that?
it was like, I'm sorry, this isn't that dramatic. Like, if she was looking to like, I don't know, find him on some sort of like county jail list or something, I would be like, this is more interesting. But like, to like see whether he followed her on Instagram, I'm sorry, that's not that crazy to like warrant this incredibly drawn out reveal that he wasn't even on. Like,
No.
let's say if he was on, if she had found him, I could have understood, okay, we're building up to a moment here. But we didn't even have a moment. It was just like complete letdown. So I'm sorry. We're like talking about something that happened 3 weeks ago. But
No, but it's relevant because
yeah.
they do bring it up in the reunion. So it's a good segue here because they do bring up when they first start with Daniel and Taylor, who do get married at the altar. So spoiler alert, but they are the only couple that actually does get married, and makes it and stays together. Also to this day, they're still married and they bought a house together. So happy for them with that. And they also, as like a joke, Nick Lachey brought up like the following, or I think it was Taylor brought up something related to the joke at first. And so it's good that they can laugh about it, about how she was thinking how Daniel had followed her on
Yeah.
Instagram and that he was basically like saying all the things that she wanted him to hear just because he knew about her life, which wasn't true because he did not follow her but they try to make it some drama that wasn't drama.
Well, I don't
Um,
know. Sorry, before we get
yeah.
any further, I don't know that we know that he didn't. She couldn't find him on the list, but I think she kind of just gave up, is what my impression was.
But I think that he wouldn't have. Like, I don't think he would have lied. He doesn't give me that kind of impression that like he would lie about that.
Yeah, I don't know because his reaction to me was so suspicious when she started scrolling and he was like, "Well, maybe I did. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe you'll find me on that list. Like, if you did find me, it wasn't intentional. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't remember doing it. And like, I get it. Like, you want to cover all your bases, like just in case. Who knows? But like, that to me, like, I really thought she was gonna find him on it because his reaction to me was giving so much, like, just trying to backtrack of what he was had said before. But then this never came up again. It wasn't a big deal. But like, I really don't know that we have actually have our answer to
Well, we're gonna have to meet Taylor and Daniel to ask him.
that. Well, what
But
is he gonna say? I don't think he's gonna ever admit it unless he
yeah.
actually, it gets revealed somehow. But I wonder if there's like a website that like you can look to see like has this account ever followed this account? Like even if you're not one of the two accounts, like I feel like that's probably a thing somewhere. There's probably like an app that does that.
Maybe that's but yeah, you'd have to get the
Let's
data.
create it.
Yeah. But I don't know how
Just
you're
to
getting
answer this
that data.
question. Like in 2 years when our app is made, we'll be able to finally answer the question.
But like I don't know how much backtracking we could do with that.
Hmm. We'll see. We'll talk to some developers.
Yeah. Well, we'll get that answer for you
Yeah.
down the road.
Yes.
But I love Taylor and Daniel. I think that they're a good couple. I feel like there wasn't really any drama besides what we talked about with the "Did you follow me?" But overall, like I just felt like in the pods you could see their instant connection, and I think they really will last.
I do too. Yeah, they seem really happy together. They do seem like a really good couple. Unrelated, but Taylor, and I don't think you know who this is, but Taylor, every time I look at her, just reminds me so much of Craig Conover's ex Naomi Olindo from Southern Charm. They are twins to me, and like that is the only person that I can think of when I see Taylor on screen every time. So that was my first thought of every time they're on camera. But no, I do think that they're a good couple, and yeah, I mean, I feel like I could absolutely see them in years to come being one of the successful couples from this show that people reference in the future as kind of the couple they want to emulate or something like that.
Yes, agreed. Well, now the ones that broke up, we can go
Yeah,
into
we're
the rest
done
of the
now
cast.
that the only happy couple is out of the way.
Yeah, now let's go into Devin and Virginia. So at the altar, Devin says yes, but Virginia said no. And that wasn't due to the fact that they had different political views and communication issues. So she just was not sure in that moment, could not say yes. So I applaud Virginia for that. I felt like I was actually getting nervous. I was getting nervous that she was just gonna say yes because that's what she felt like she should do, and not that she was like thinking like logically about it. So I'm glad that she said no. And so obviously they were not meant to be together. Devin still has growing up to do, and I I think overall they just were not a good match.
I agree. Yeah, I think that they were just not compatible. Like they probably would do really well like as friends if they had never tried to be romantic together. I just think yeah, they disagree on so many fundamental issues politically and just I just don't think that they were compatible like communicators and it was never going to work. So I'm glad that they figured that out before the weddings, and at least Virginia did,
Yeah.
and that makes it a lot easier to break up now than it would down the line if they tried to make it work. And I just don't think that it was ever going to work in the long run. So, yeah, I'm glad that Virginia said no. I think that that was the right move, and it seems like afterwards, even though they tried to make it work again after the wedding, that it never panned out still. So glad
Yeah.
that they figured that out now.
Yeah, because they did talk for the next week after the wedding, but then Devin stopped taking her calls. So Virginia didn't really know what was going on there, but then obviously that ended. And Molly and Madison did say that Devin told that Virginia ghosted him, so he was then trying to make up lies that he was turning it on to Virginia instead of and claiming like that she was ghosting him when he was the one ghosting her.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I mean, that just to me indicates that again that they weren't meant to be. That clearly the two of them both have very different communication styles, views on how things have gone down in the past, and it just, yeah, I think they were always going to butt heads.
if you wanted to marry someone and you almost did 6, 7 days before, you should probably respond to them.
Or just agree to cut off communication.
Yeah, that's what I
Like,
mean. Like, not just like
yeah,
completely cut it off, but just give some sort of closure of
yeah,
like, okay, this is not working. I don't want to continue this, but instead he just went about it the immature way.
exactly.
Yep. So Virginia can find much better. And hopefully Devin learns from his mistakes.
Yeah, and I was
Um,
glad that Virginia didn't she didn't bash him at the
no,
reunion. Like I think she tried to she said, "Look, I can only speak for myself. These are the issues that are important to me." And that insinuates that those were not important to him, of course, but she didn't try to speak for him, and I thought that that was very good. I thought she handled it really, really well.
I agree. It was very mature of how Virginia responded to those questions, which I was like impressed. I was like, wow, that was a good answer.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's good that they like it seems that there's no real animosity there too, which is good.
Hmm.
Because there's not meant to be.
Exactly.
Well, now moving into Ben and Sarah, which maybe there is some animosity between them, in recent days. But let's go back to what's happened in the show first. So at the altar, Sarah said no, because then Ben had a lack of interest in social issues and other fundamental differences here with this
Yeah.
couple as well. So continuing that trend, where the guy is conservative and the woman is liberal and they won't sacrifice their views for that.
It is interesting that really very similar situations happened with two different couples here. And
Yeah.
it's something that we've never really quite seen before on this show, where I feel like they've
Yeah.
so openly discussed their political stances, and that being, I guess, last season a little bit. I don't even remember their names. Oh my God! But there was that one couple where he was. Remember they had a very emotional breakup right before, like the night before the weddings or something,
Yeah.
and he was really upset with her military background. I feel like
Mhm.
that was kind of the first time that we had talked about kind of more social issues and differences there on this show, but now we've gotten it with two different couples. So
Yeah.
yeah,
No, it
it
was
was
good to
interesting.
see that. I feel like it was good just overall, like seeing that kind of dynamic in the couple. It's obviously a real issue people deal with. So I'm glad that we got two different ones with that as well.
Yeah.
Like not just one couple, but two. But so with that, because Sarah also didn't want to go to church and Ben was going to church. So already I feel like when they were in the pod, she was already questioning that. So I think her saying no definitely was the right choice. I mean, not think like we know that was definitely the right choice for her. But yeah, so they actually did though continue to date after the show. And so this is where more of the drama comes in because at the altar, Ben was asking if they can continue dating, and Sarah was like, "Well, we'll see." And so it sounded like they actually did, but then Sarah had to be in Nashville for work for 3 months, and they agreed that Ben would join her there for at least a couple of weeks. But then once she drove there, Ben removed her from Find My Friends and ghosted her for a month. And so, and this time, like right before this happened, things were totally normal. I saw her, she posted on TikTok the receipts. So if you're curious,
Ooh.
go look at her TikTok because she's posted text receipts on there. And it definitely was weird how he just all of a sudden stopped responding. And he just sent then like some like really just AI or like whatever generated, like not maybe not AI, but just not what he would mean to say, or not something that
Like
he.
someone wrote it for him type of
Yeah,
thing. Like, yeah.
exactly. It was not sincere at all, which Sarah noticed that as well. She went on the biofiles. I also saw a clip of that, of her talking about
Mm.
that she was just like, this just felt like my words he put into these texts that were not.
Interesting. Were they on her story or are they still there?
There no TikTok video.
Oh, I thought you said Instagram. Okay.
Oh well, no. So the Nick Viall clip, I didn't watch the whole her whole interview part of Nick Viall's episode of the reality recap this week, but or whichever episode she was on, she mentioned like because he asked her about it, and she just
Mm.
mentioned that it was like he was just not giving sincere apologies there, or like didn't give any reasons for what happened.
Okay.
It just didn't seem real. Basically, his responses just didn't seem real to her.
Yeah.
And so I trust her on that. Like she dated him, almost married him. So I'm taking Sarah's
Yeah.
word. But and they did look weird. Like you'll see the text and you'll be like, yeah, like that sounds weird.
I
Um,
believe it. I don't think
especially
I
for
think I
not having
believe her before I
responded and
actually
all
see.
out of the oh yeah, especially for coming out of the blue and just like ending their Find My Friends. He thought they were not dating anymore. It was just weird. Um, the whole conversation was weird.
Yeah.
So I feel for Sarah with that. But then also it's revealed at the reunion that Jimmy from season 6 had advised him that he reach out to Sarah and be on good terms going into the reunion. So then that's when she mentioned like that Ben thought that they were broken up when she moved out because he cut her off. Like that's why. He does that with all of his exes, but Sarah wasn't under that interpretation because they never said that they were broken up. Like he just
Yeah.
assumed. So it's funny hearing Jimmy's name again come
I
back.
know, it makes me like look back at that season 6 reunion a little bit differently now because I'm like, wow, that now feels very like that was maybe very calculated that Jimmy and Chelsea seemed to be on really good terms at that reunion. That like maybe that
Oh,
was Jimmy really planning that beforehand of thinking like, oh, the audience is like hating me, so I'm going to get on Chelsea, like, become on good terms with Chelsea again so that we can get it to this reunion and she's not going to bash me even more. And if the audience sees that we're close still, then they'll back off of me a bit, thinking that, like, they don't have to defend Chelsea for, by bashing me. So I don't know. That makes me look back at that a little bit differently now.
that is interesting. I hadn't thought about that because I forgot about what happened in that reunion. But I
Because
mean, I
they
don't.
seemed close, like they
Yeah,
seemed like, oh, we're friends still, but like, I don't
yeah.
know, were they really, or like, was that very calculated on
Well,
his part?
we saw like the paparazzi also caught them. We're not a paparazzi, but whoever caught them out at
Mm,
a lunch or something, people were speculating they were even together. So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
there was just some chatter on that. But yeah, but this was different because I think it was just Ben really just like needing someone from the past in the shows to talk to, and then took it as okay, like I should make things better. But then obviously that didn't work for him and Sarah
Hmm.
because Sarah did not trust him still with that. But yeah,
Yeah, and look, like I don't think it's bad to get advice from former cast members, like before a reunion. Like, I mean,
yeah,
housewives do that all the time. They like reach out to people from different franchises and say, like, what do you like? How should I, handle this? Like, here's the situation I'm in with my cast. Like, how would, how should what should I do? How should I go about this? And I think that that's perfectly understandable. But like, I think that it's different when you're advised to do something of just be a decent human, and then like it took
yeah,
someone telling you to do that to do it, and then it feels insincere because someone had to tell you to do it. So like, yeah, I
yeah.
think that's the issue. It's not the reaching out part, but it's just like
No.
the fact that that's the advice they had to give you.
Exactly. It's like, "Ben, like, why can't you do that for yourself?
Right.
Like, that's your problem." Um, but I mean, Jimmy was trying to help the best he could, and then Ben just wasn't smart enough to not ask him first, or for
Yeah.
him to just not realize it first.
Yep.
But
Exactly.
but it worked out, I guess, in some regards. Some people thought, I guess, maybe believed him, but I feel like most people didn't in that way.
I mean,
That
you're always gonna have your fans
yeah,
who love some toxic masculinity, but and never going to
Yes,
side with the liberal woman in particular. But
exactly. And I also, it's funny because I remember seeing the videos also coming out about Ben, how he would hand out business cards to
oh my
people.
God,
So
the YouTube
hearing this,
channel.
yeah, for his YouTube channel, hearing this just like adds a layer of Ben that like he's just there for the clout, and like it just is annoying to see it continue.
I mean, like, I'm sorry. First of all, that business card looks like it's from 1995. Like, I think it's old using like the old YouTube logo from like 2009 and like his picture, like cheesy picture on it. Oh my God, that made me like cringe so hard. So, yeah,
Yeah,
I think we know why he's there. Which, like,
yeah,
look, he's probably not the only one. I'm not saying that,
yeah.
like, he's the only one there for that reason. And I think there are people who can go in for that reason and then actually find someone and, not necessarily expect to find anyone, but kind of be open to that possibility. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's 90% of probably people that go on love shows these days. But I think that when you kind of see the actions that match with that, it makes it feel like, okay, maybe that was his intention this entire time. And I think that's the difference. Is once you're with somebody, then your intention should change, should shift a little bit to focus on that. And I don't know that that ever did.
Agreed. So glad that they've broken up, and Sarah could find much better. Well, now going into our next couple is Joey and Monica. So with them, they had an interesting relationship, I think, because they were our first couple we saw get engaged. Um,
Yeah, we barely knew anything about them
and
when they
we
got
barely knew
engaged. I was like,
them.
who are they?
Yeah, they hadn't even said "I love you" to each other.
Yeah, that
Um,
was wild.
which apparently the first time Monica said it was actually at the altar, also, which was interesting to hear Joey say that. But at the altar itself, Monica said no, saying that she didn't feel enough reassurance that they were ready to be married. So overall, like it seemed like they just like them as a couple. I'm surprised they made it to the altar in general. I think like
Mm,
I wasn't really seeing it in terms of like once they met the family, like I was concerned because of Monica's sister, and like with that,
yeah.
like it just felt like that was just a big deal. And I didn't really see it continuing in the long run, but I was hoping that maybe we weren't seeing like everything and then maybe something would work out with them, but ultimately it just wasn't. And also Joey was also then like doing some shady things also, so that wasn't good for Monica. Overall, she was upset to hear about that. He was sliding into some of the other castmates' DMs, in particular Madison, saying that he was loving the pink hair. Wish we could have talked more. Like that's not a good message to send. Right? Like when you're still with someone else. So that's also bad for Monica to hear that. She would be like, "Okay, then why did you even stay with me?" But overall, it's good that she said no. Moral of the story is that she knew in her gut that it wasn't meant to be. So they're not together.
Yeah, I think I got really heavy best friends vibes from them this whole time. Like
Yeah,
it didn't feel like they were in love with each other. It just felt like they really enjoyed being around each other and they seemed to have a lot in common and like I think that they really had a good friend chemistry,
yeah,
but it never quite got past that point. And then, of course, when Monica hears about all these, the DM to Madison and the fact that he told her that Madison was going to meet up with him at bars and like she kind of heard all these rumors that I guess we don't exactly know what's true and not true, but like I feel like that just kind of reaffirmed her decision there because it seemed like they did continue to see each other for a while after the wedding and maybe potentially were going to keep and keep going into a relationship, but I think they were kind of in that limbo of whether they were just friends now or actually dating. But then her hearing all of this, I think, of course, then made her feel like, okay, maybe I just don't want you in my life at all at this point. Let's just close this door completely. And I'm glad I made the decision that I made here. And, you know, we'll be
Yeah,
humans on this planet together, as I think what she said.
but she did say that. And it's interesting that we're also hearing about so many months into like some short clippets of talk because like we don't really know there could be so much more that went down in the span of like when filming ended and then the reunion. Obviously it's been a year. So like there's probably a lot we don't even know about as well. So it just seems to be like for the best that they'll just not continue talking to each other because they just were not meant to be either. So
Yeah,
a lot of these couples just better off without the other.
for
Um,
sure.
Another one where the same thing remains true is with David and Lauren. So it's weird seeing as David because we call him Dave. Um,
Oh, yeah.
but I guess his real name is David. Um, but this couple we got a lot of airtime from them. I feel like Dave and Lauren were like spotlighted this whole season, and not
Yeah.
in a good way. Well, good for Lauren, but not for Dave. And at the altar, well, they didn't make it to the altar, so because they broke up beforehand because Lauren had Dave had a problem that Lauren had been previously had dated loosely, like just very
Hooked up with,
casually.
even, you could just
Yeah,
say, yeah.
not even dated, just hooked up with this guy who he had some associations to with some friends of his who knew him, who gave him information that was false, and he didn't trust Lauren and what she was saying and believing his friends and thinking that she was dating this guy up until the moment she left for Love Is Blind to film, which wasn't true, and that she wasn't ready, even though like it was just all basically deflection. It seemed like that Dave was just not ready to get married to Lauren and just getting in his head too much about that situation that he couldn't trust Lauren anymore and Lauren was just through the ringer. I'm surprised she stayed with him so long through that. Like I was like after that first conversation I would have been like I'm done. Well, I think looking at it 2020 like hindsight like obviously but maybe like in it she was confused and he was saying other things that made it sound like they were going to get through it, but in this short of a time frame that you're filming and this is taking up this much of your thought in your head about like this is not good. Like you're not gonna you can't even meet their family like and friends, like that's just a bad sign. So they just were not good together. Dave needed a lot of growing up to do with that. He was just his ego was just in his way of thinking like, oh, Lauren was just with someone. Like, can't believe that. Like, you're with her now. Accept that and just forget what happened in her past. Like, it just was weird. The whole
Yeah.
situation.
I have had a theory this whole time since this story came out that so here's my thought on this. I think that Dave's family was never supportive of him going on the show, is what it seems like. And so he just basically, in order to get them to be okay with it, he was like, okay, I'll go on. I won't get engaged to anyone. So he goes on. Then he meets Lauren, and I think he genuinely really did like Lauren. And so he kind of just gets immersed in this experience and he decides, screw it, I'm going to do it. I potentially because he wanted to continue being on the show. Who knows? But he gets engaged to her, comes back home. I think that in his mind, he was like, okay, I'm going to be able to convince my family to be okay with this. Like, I'll tell them about Lauren, how amazing she is. They wouldn't budge. They had probably, while he was gone, seen these rumors about someone on the show. And then when he talks to them and they put two and two together, figure out it's Lauren, and they're like, we're not going to be supportive of this. We're not going on camera. Like, you told us you weren't getting engaged. Not only did you get engaged, but you got engaged to this girl who has all these rumors about her. So then he's getting into his head about it. And I think he probably thought, like, okay, I need to figure out a way out of this because I'm not going to ruin my relationship with my family in order to be with this girl who, maybe she did date this guy, maybe she didn't, but like, whatever the truth is, there's a lot of controversy about it, but I'm not going to like ruin my relationship with my family for it. So then he brilliantly decides the way that I'm going to get out of this is to gaslight her and completely like make her the villain in it so that I can get out of this scot free. I can be the hero to the audience because an audience hates someone who's here for the wrong reasons. And so he thought, this is a great idea. I can get out of this, be in a good position with my family, not have to decide between the two, and come out of this the hero. And it didn't work out because it's stupid. So clearly that guy, I mean, as you know, he realizes now, I guess, was just, you know, in it to be involved in the show and starting all these rumors and whatever. So clearly he, you know, the guy had bad intentions with that, and now Dave realizes that and seemed, you know, to kind of get it. But yeah, that's kind of my theory about how that all went down.
That's interesting. I think Dave wasn't smart enough to concoct that all.
That's
Okay.
probably true.
I'm like,
Giving
I
him
think
too much
you're
credit.
giving him too much credit with that. But I think he was just going through an emotional time. He wasn't able to get approval from his family in general for doing the show, and then he did really like Lauren, and now it does seem like he kind of regrets it, is what it sounded like in the reunion. That like that situation ruined what they could have maybe
Yeah.
had together, which like that made me kind of feel sad for Dave, which I was like, why am I feeling sad? But
I mean, like, yeah, like I think that it is like I think that he believed the wrong. He believed the guy because all his friends and family were on the guy's side, probably. And so, like, when you have all these people telling you about somebody is a certain
it's a
way and that
classic
this is the
rumor.
truth, what?
It's just a rumor. Like you're
Right?
hearing from
Yeah,
sources, if you know the sources that are better to closer to you, you're gonna believe that. That's
yeah,
source of a rumor just comes from sources you know.
yeah. And I think like I can understand how he would. eh, I can understand how like he would take value in what his friends and family are telling him. But I
Yeah.
think that what the problem was is that I think he should have 100% given Lauren the opportunity to meet them, tell them her side, answer all the questions that they have about it, and then decide how who they believe. You know, but give her that opportunity, especially if, you know, he said that if I really wanted them to meet you, I could have. Like that to me was like, oh, so this really is maybe somewhat about them, but it's also you making this decision to not introduce her to them. And I think that if he had at least done that and given her the chance to defend herself, tell her side, then, you know, whatever happens from there happens. But the fact that he didn't even give her that chance really is kind of crappy.
Exactly. That's what was the worst part of it all. It's just that she wasn't able to actually defend herself, which she also voiced that at the reunion that she was frustrated that he never gave her that. And I think, but overall, like they do seem like they're on good terms. Like she says that she doesn't think that Dave's a narcissist or a manipulator. So even though they were having problems, obviously with their communication, like she never thought it as like a way um just to hurt her, like just because he was focused on himself. Like it was just because of what he was thinking in the moment. But
Yeah, and I'm glad that she said that. You know that the audience can be rough with with
yeah,
especially people who are don't come off well on the show. That they can put a lot of labels on them and go too far a lot of times. And I am glad that she said that, and hopefully that will tone down the trolls online a bit.
yeah, for sure. But another example of maybe her not fully believing him also in his apology, because he did only just reach out a few weeks before the reunion to apologize and let
Yeah.
things air out, seemed to be like to be on good terms, which maybe had a factor in how she responded to him at the reunion. But I mean, obviously, it's TV. Like that's gonna happen before you go out on national television or Netflix, which goes around the world. Like they're gonna have to talk to people. So he probably just talked to someone else, and they said reach out to her. So he did.
Yeah. Who knows?
Who
But
knows?
yeah, no, it seems like they're fine. I think they posted a picture together after the
Yeah.
reunion.
Well, that was
So,
in Austin. That picture was from
oh,
the
oh, from
pod.
South by.
Yeah, from South by, which I was out of town for, but I would have been able to meet them maybe if I went to
A
Rainy
lot of
or
them were there, I think.
yeah, there
Yeah.
were so many.
Hmm.
But yeah, it seems like they're fine. Like, and it's funny now. I saw a picture that they were like, "Well, we're the least dramatic post breakup couple
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
of the
That was funny.
season," and during the season they had the most drama. So that was funny to see. I'm like, well, this is good. I think it has to do a lot with how Lauren was able to like forgive Dave as well with that. So she's just a really great person. I want to root for her now. I'm following her because I really like Lauren, but I think she is
Yeah,
my
she was great.
favorite from this season. I mean, I like all the girls, but can't say the same
Yeah,
about the guys.
definitely not.
um, well, next up, we also had some of the castmates who they left before getting engaged, but they came to the reunion because there's still drama. They wanted to close up about that. So, in particular, was Mason, Meg, Madison, and Alex. They all came, and they're in the pods relationships. I feel like were interesting to watch unfold. Like that was the one part of the pods that I'm like, I'm glad they showed these because those were interesting and then we didn't get them afterwards. So like I'm glad we got them in the first half of the season.
Yeah, it's weird though, because like we
Yeah.
had this whole like I think I feel very like conflicted about that because we get this whole love triangle, all this drama, and then they all end up single, and it's like, why are we investing in these stories when the second half of the season we're not going to see them at all, basically? And so that felt very weird to me that they spent so much time showing us all this love triangle and everything that then just completely ended in episode 6.
Yeah, it is true. But I mean, we had like long episodes also, so I think maybe that had a factor that they were just like, well, we'll include these still.
But like they could have, like, that's what I'm saying, is that I feel like
Yeah.
I almost, I mean, yes, it was messy and dramatic, I guess, but like I almost would rather them shorten the pods and cut out these stories that we're not gonna see anything of, or at least lessen how much we see of them,
Yeah.
when it's just not going to come to any, satisfying conclusion that we end up getting to follow for the second half of the season. So I don't know. I have conflicting thoughts about it, but
Yeah. I mean, they get airtime from it, even if they didn't get engaged, so they're probably not complaining.
yeah, I wonder
Well,
how many in past seasons there are love triangles like that that don't make it out of the pods that were just completely cut out. I don't know.
I mean, probably a lot.
Yeah.
We don't get to see a lot of the couples, so
Right, right. No, yeah,
and
that's what I'm
even
saying.
stuff dynamics that happen within couples that did end up together, we didn't get to see. Like or like the couple, like apparently there was a love square with um Joey, Monica, Ben, and Sarah.
Oh,
But
really?
we didn't see that. Yeah, because now there's speculation that Sarah and Joey
Yeah,
are dating, but that's
yeah.
just they say they're friends, close
Mm-hmm.
friends. So we'll see
Who
what
knows?
happens with that, but
Yeah.
it seemed like that was also happening. We just didn't see that.
Hmm. Who
Yeah.
knows?
So producers, we want more from the actual couples that
No, we don't want more pods. No,
no, not
less
more pods,
pods.
just more of the drama that is relevant.
Yeah,
Because this drama wasn't
please.
relevant. But I mean, it was entertaining at least. But overall, we see that Meg and Mason are no longer together, but they did try to date after the pods, even though they broke up in the pod. And they say they're still close friends, so I don't know what's going on. They were sitting kind of close together on the couch, but I don't know. Maybe that's just because they're friends.
Yeah.
But then
And it's probably a
Madison,
small couch.
yeah, exactly.
We see that on the
Madison,
Housewives reunions sometimes, where like some cities get like the largest couch you could ever think of, and they're so far apart. And then some cities like Miami, they have the smallest couch, and there's like six of them that are trying to like sit on top of each other, basically. It's so funny.
oh yeah, no, that's funny. But as we see then, also in the reunion, then Madison says she felt that Mason was being manipulative towards her in the pods by committing to her, but then also still continuing to see Meg and telling both of them the same thing. So I did notice that when the pods were happening between them, like I was concerned, like after Mason said that to Madison, I was like, wait, he's still going and dating Meg. that's not that great. But she was also still dating Alex. So it was just all messy of what was going on there. And like I feel like maybe there's was just not good communication between them all, basically is what it comes down to. Because I think like they just weren't voicing what was going on really, because Mason said he felt pressured by Madison to commit, but she was saying she never pressured him. But then Meg is now also defending Mason and saying that she doesn't understand why Madison was so upset with Mason when Alex was her number one the whole time. Which actually, that one was fair. I was like, true. Like, why are you bringing this up if you were so happy talking to someone else? Like, she wanted to stir the pot. It seemed like with that, which like I can't fault her for it. She wanted to stand on what she believed in as well. But like I think at that point it's just like give up on that. Like you're not gonna win in this argument, it seems like. So like just let it be at that point.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like by this point, I don't even remember the specifics of like how I felt watching all of this in the pods. It feels like so long ago, and
Yeah.
we've lived 500 lives since then. But yeah, I mean, I guess I feel like I don't know that Mason. I mean, I probably believe him when he says that it's flattering that you think I'm smart enough to manipulate anyone. So, I mean, kind of similar to what we said about Joey, or who did we say?
Dave.
Ben, I guess.
Oh.
Wait,
Oh
no,
yeah.
who did we say?
Oh,
Was it
we
Dave?
said
No,
about
yeah,
Dave because of his
Dave.
family.
Too many. I'm sorry, all the men look alike this season.
Wait, they did. I was texting you and I was like, wait, did he just lie to someone else? I was like, no, that was a different person.
Yeah.
Because they all look so similar.
But so probably, I mean, that's true. But like, I think it's
Yeah.
probably one of those situations where it's like he just hadn't made up his mind yet, so he's going to tell both of them enough to keep them coming back, like and wanting him, so that he can have the pick of the litter the whole time of whoever he wants, and so he's just going to kind of tell them just enough of what they want to hear.
Yeah.
But I don't know that he had like bad intentions to hurt anyone in particular. I just think that he wasn't necessarily considering their feelings enough and ended up hurting at least Madison in the process.
Yeah, and I think in that scenario, it's obviously difficult. We've never been in the pods ourselves. I cannot attest to what
No,
it
don't
is
say
like.
that.
I've never been there dating two people at the same time who I'm almost getting engaged to one of them. Like that that's kind of crazy when you think about that. Like the circumstance with that is just very wild. So it's obviously a lot is going through your head
Yeah,
there and you're not even thinking straight probably 90% of that in your conversation somewhat. Maybe not 90%, but somewhat like you're not always there, especially when you're like maybe just long days, a lot of filming. Like we don't see all the conversations obviously. So
right.
like they're tired. And so maybe there are things that get said that they don't fully mean in that way that come across in different ways. So it's hard to like completely judge someone based on how they are. I think dating in the pods because of that. And obviously it's not good that if you're upsetting Madison and that, like Mason did obviously upset Madison. But it is what it is. It's how the show works sometimes.
Yeah, I think we've heard behind the scenes stories now about how little sleep they get,
Yeah.
and they. I think at some point too, you probably just want like, you don't feel like you've had enough time to really like make a decision, so you want to like be able to talk with both of the ones you're thinking about as many times as possible, and so you want to kind of keep it going because you want to have the enough information to make that big decision of who you're going to propose to, and so
Yeah.
you kind of want to like to just keep it going as long as you can so that you can have more time to talk with both of them and make an informed decision. So,
Yeah. Agreed. And they weren't meant to be, obviously. I mean, none of them are together. So hopefully they we'll see what happens with them in the future,
yeah.
but I don't know if I really care to follow them that much. But
No, and I want to say,
yeah,
like, I mean, we've
yeah,
seen the allegations about Alex that are
yeah.
terrible, and I hope that nobody is maintaining a friendship with him after, if all that is true. So, I just want to acknowledge that because the reunion did not.
Yeah, that is true, which I was surprised they didn't. I feel like that was crazy.
Yeah.
Um, but well, to end it on a higher, more positive note in this reunion is they bring in AD from season 6 and Ollie from Love Is Blind UK, who started dating during Perfect Match, and they get engaged also on the reunion. Well, they aired it on the reunion. Obviously, didn't
Yeah.
happen that day, but they are happily engaged now, which I was happy to see. I think, I mean, we obviously knew there were speculations about this, so I wasn't surprised to see it go down like this. But it is surprising to me that this is airing to us before we even see them on Perfect Match,
Yeah.
because now we're spoiled for this whole season that we know that they're married or gonna get married now. But I guess that kind of once that I think Netflix is thinking like we know we never had success from Perfect Match in the past.
Yeah.
Now we do. Please watch. But
Exactly.
I think Perfect Match already gets viewers, so I'm like, why do they have to spoil it like that? But I mean, I guess it's not that surprising because also I feel like general Perfect Match gets spoiled. But it was just kind of crazy that they did it to themselves.
I mean, the ending of season 2 was so bad that,
Yeah,
like, I think that they probably felt the need to do something, a stunt like this, to get people back and show, like, hey, we're gonna have a relationship that, I mean, I would assume hopefully they win, but we never know with this show. The fact that somebody won last season, Christine and who was her partner? I don't even
Nigel, I
remember.
think.
Yeah, Christine and Nigel won
Yeah.
after knowing each other for like less than 24 hours. So I'm glad that at least they have a successful couple that actually weirdly does make me feel more likely to watch this season. Like, I think it kind of worked for me, even though it's
Yeah,
such a weird strategy to spoil your own show. But
I
I think
know.
it kind of worked because it's like, okay, the first two seasons felt so pointless because it's like,
Yeah.
watching 12, 13 episodes of this and no couple is going to come out of this, and not even close really. Like maybe the closest we had was like Georgia and what's his face who came back for season 2 again,
Oh,
uh
Dom.
Dom. But because I think they dated for a bit afterwards, but then that fell apart very quickly. But I don't think season 2 even had any couples that really dated for more than maybe like a week after. So at least this time we're getting a couple that like has potential. So
Yeah.
I'm glad to see that, but it was definitely a unexpected weird move on their part.
Agreed. But I'm excited for a perfect match now. So
Yeah.
that worked on me as well.
And I'm glad that they're picking. Well, I don't know if I'm glad, but I have mixed feelings. But like they're picking people from outside of just the Netflix universe this time, which could kind of keep things interesting. So
Yeah,
it'll be a different feel, I think.
that makes sense. So I'm excited for that. But to close out Love is Blind, do you have any hopes for next season or anything you want them to change in particular? I know we don't want more pods. We want to cut the pods in half. But what else are you thinking?
Yeah, I think just fewer pods episodes. I would think this season was one episode longer than normal, and that episode was a pod episode. So I
Yeah.
think let's bring it back from 13 to 12 episodes and cut an episode of the pods in half. But I actually do think the producers I saw in an interview today or yesterday did talk about that, and they said, look, like we hear you, we hear the viewers, and we want to make a show that is the best it can be. And so it did sound like, at least with that aspect of it, they are listening. So I have hope for that. And
Yes.
I think more diversity. This season was a very white season. And I hope that that changes for next year. Um, and yeah, I just would like to be able to distinguish the men from each other.
I think those are all great wishes. Um and yeah, I don't know if I have anything else to add on that. But I feel like maybe I felt like there was like 0 point to their going away like to Honduras this time. There was like no drama that came from that.
Yeah, there
So I
wasn't
feel
at
like
all.
that could have been cut shorter too, unless there's like real drama that comes from it. I feel like we got too much of that.
Yeah, I
Those,
do think that they need the trip. Like, I understand the point
yeah,
of it because it's kind of like this in between of like, okay, you're meeting each other, but like now you don't have to like quite go back to regular life, like, split second. Like, you can kind of like have this in between period to get to know each other a bit before like moving in together. And the couples are all together. And so, like, potentially there could be drama if some of them have dated each other. Like, I think it didn't work out this time, but I get the point of it. So I don't want them to like completely do away with it. But I agree. If there's no drama, let's shorten it.
yeah, for sure. But overall, the end we did get drama, so that made it for a good season. But definitely room to improve for Love Is Blind as the seasons go on. So I'm excited for that to continue. I mean, I'm sure it's gonna get renewed because
It's already
people.
filmed.
It was already filmed, right? It's in Denver, so
Yeah.
we already know we're getting another season. So I'm excited for that, and more to come with Love Is Blind. And also, we'll be talking more about Survivor as well. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts and follow us, Let's Chat Reality, on Instagram and TikTok. And thanks so much for listening.
Bye, everyone.